All right, get that stuff off of here. It's time for the way forward. We're coming back. This is season 6. I think this is season 6 for us. Good morning to everyone that's out there, because I don't know who watches this around the world. This is not like the Erskine Music Show. This is not the Erskine Music Show. The Erskine Music Show that people tune in from Tanzania. That's my effect for typing. Sorry about that. I would actually type something on the screen here, but that would mess this whole show up. So I'm gonna stay in my lane. What's up from India? People typing in. What's up from a country that you guys may have heard about before? A country called Texas. All right. Anyway, access granted.
Access granted.
We got to bring my man in here. This is Jason, Dr. Reverend. There he is. There you go.
There he is. There he is. Hey, there it is. The fireworks.
Love that. Little baby fireworks.
Yes.
And as folks are watching in Georgia, I can't say Dr. Reverend, but Isaac Danford is watching here in Georgia. So people are signing in. People are tuning in. It's the way forward, Jason. We are back. And, bro, it's good to see you.
Yeah. Hey, I've added another title. Check it out. It's not just the Bishop, Reverend, Doctor.
Headmaster, Bishop, Reverend, Doctor.
I am your token white guy. Look at that.
Oh, Jason, but not to be outdone. What if I'm the token black guy for the show?
No, that's what I'm saying. And all the white groups have their token black guy. I am your token white guy.
Yeah, there we go.
I've deeded you that special title.
And so, for those who are tuning in and watching the ticker that's across the bottom of the screen, this is season 5 or 6 for us. I think it's maybe 6 for us. Yeah. The way forward, black guy and white guy discuss culture and its applications for the church.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. And then we have people coming from, look, I just got a smoothie from off camera. My wife is just so supportive of the show.
My wife's asleep.
Well, it is Saturday morning. Thank you.
Saturday morning.
Thank you, wife. And I don't know if you can see this or not, but we're on the there's some audience that is viewing at the bottom of the screen. That's one of the improvements that we made of the show.
Okay.
Let's get this guy off of here. I don't know if you can see this. Let me show you. Folks who are tuning in, bear with us. There's a live audience that's down at the bottom of the screen, Jason. You see him?
Okay. Oh yes. Yeah.
We've been in the kitchen cooking. We've been in the kitchen cooking.
Yes.
And so applause for my team who put this. Y'all know Aaliyah. She be putting stuff together in the wee hours of the morning, and I'm like, here's my vision for what I want to have. I want to have a live audience that's down there listening to us as we are talking about some of these cultural issues and just really chopping it up. And they'll be
just enthralled with everything we have, hanging on our every word. The
yes, and
of the wisdom.
Way forward over there, just beeping in the corner. I love it. The kids are happy.
That works.
The people are happy. Man, this is going to be a great season. So listen, folks, buckle in. We're going to go about an hour or so. We need to go 3 hours, but listen, if you can't figure it out on your own.
Joe Rogan, man, that guy can talk.
Yeah.
He is, I don't know what his team does to get him to have that much to talk about for 3 hours, but I'm not even sure you and I have gone 3 hours on the couch, have we? Like,
we could go 3 hours. I'm certain that I can go 3 hours. I know what the secret sauce is, and folks, pay attention to this. If you would have a live stream show, pay attention to this. I don't know if you saw this last. There's 2 things I want to say real quickly. I'm gonna try to say them very quickly here, but you're gonna see why it is that I take so long to say things. I don't know if you saw this, Jason, but in Nashville they have the top 100 podcasts.
Yeah.
And I will say, because you're the cut-ins for the podcast show, I'm ranked number 42 in Nashville among the top 100 podcasts.
No, you're not. Are you kidding? To the bank?
But I mean, listen, when I do good, I'd rather do better. Like 1K Fu said. I mean, I'm 42 now.
Podcast?
I'm 42 right now. But when the next rankings come out, don't be surprised. Because I'm going to try to meet the person who puts these polls out.
Are you Josh? 42 of the top 100?
Yeah, it's on Instagram right now. I don't know if you saw the Instagram post. Yeah, people have started liking that Instagram post. They're seeing that I'm ranked number 42 in Nashville, but we're moving up, buddy. We are.
I know people.
Moving up the ladder.
Hey, listen, we elected 47, and I know 42 right here. Right here. You need to get you a hat that's got 42 on it.
There we go. No. I'm not making any hats to say 42 because before too much longer, it's going to be 22. Then it's going to be 12, and then it's going to be 2, and then. I mean, the guy who put the list out, his show is number 1. Very large show here in Nashville.
Yeah.
But then I guess when he gets knocked off the top, he'll probably stop doing the rankings.
Yeah. So, then you'll have to do the rankings.
And then I have to do it. All right. Hey, I love the way you think. I love the way you think. But I was telling somebody this for a podcast and for a live stream show, the way that we're doing it, really, we do a lot more valuetainment. We're probably about 70-30, maybe sometimes a little bit 80-20. But the key to a live stream show, and pay attention to the audience. There's a bunch of people who are watching today because this is the season premiere of the Way Forward show. The key to a good podcast and live stream is you talk about 90% nothing and 10% content. And you keep teasing what it is that you're going to talk about. So like we put the Donald Trump up there so they know that we're about to talk about executive orders. Yeah, it's coming. Right. It's coming. But as we talk about the Bears' new head coach, as we talk about what's going on in our lives.
Baby. Yeah.
The Super Bowl is ours.
Yes. Yeah. Ben Johnson. I wore my Bears jacket today just in hopes.
Yes. Some good folks, some mighty good folks, Jason, are watching from Savannah, Georgia. All right. Georgia is strong today. I'm just going to go ahead and say.
I love
Kimberly Holtzclaw watching from East Tennessee.
I got some friends, Casey and Valerie. We go down every now and then to Gay, Georgia. And
Gay, Georgia?
It is. He's the
Gay, Georgia?
Pastor of a Gay Baptist church. I think it's what it is. So, of course, if you know anything about my personality, I mean, I've got to mess with that just a little bit. Just a little bit. But they have the cotton picking fair, I guess, twice a year.
Oh, man.
And I've been trying to get down there to it.
You just made that up. Jason, I was serious about the 42. Did you just make that up?
Now, listen, I've known Casey since seminary. And when he told me he was from Gay, Georgia, I'm like, right on.
People Google this right now. Can you guys put in the comment section information about, what is it, Gay Baptist Church?
I think it's Gay Baptist. I preached there twice.
Of
so I'm as gay as he is, I guess. So I love the people. They're sweet. I mean, it's a sweet little community. We find it as like a little respite when our family goes there because his mama cooks like no other. And she goes all out when we come down there and we eat. And there's a reason. I tell Casey there's a reason why God has not called me to Georgia. Because I'm already big. I would just have a cardiac if I spent more than 2 weeks down there. So because the food is
those folks can cook.
Yeah,
that's Georgia, especially Savannah. Yeah, I was in Cordele a little bit. Mm-hmm. That's not the South, Jason. That's the South.
That's
SOUF.
That's like below the gnat line, right?
South.
And there a gnat line that goes across Georgia where the bugs change.
Like there is.
You can drive into it. Yeah.
Corresponding to the freeze line.
Yeah.
Somewhat. But it's the South, man. They got some great food down there. Great people. Good food. Great people.
Yeah.
I mean, they do have some KKK people that are still down there, but that's okay. We're not talking about them today.
Yeah. Not in Gay, Georgia.
Not in Gay, Georgia. Is there a First Baptist gay in this? Can we confirm or deny? I have a very we have a very intelligent audience. And so someone can look up some information about this. Type this in the comment section. This is a live show. The comment section is on. And
Hart is the pastor.
Okay, he's calling out names.
I can remember it's Gay Baptist or First Baptist of Gay Georgia. Yeah, it's. I thought it was. I've always referred to it as Gay Baptist Church, so I don't know.
Oh my goodness!
But he's dear, man. Casey's cool. Casey's a real cool cat. You would love Casey and Valerie. Yeah, they're.
We get Casey on the show.
Yeah, you probably could. Yeah, I bet,
Text
and he
him.
would be fun because he's hilarious. Casey's
But
hilarious.
you have to be
Yeah, yeah, he's
to
fun.
accept that assignment because
And
you
he
know
does
your
it
friends are going
well.
to be clowning.
Hey, that brother is faithful to his people down there. Now he's
Well,
good. He's a
praise the
good dude.
Lord.
Yeah,
Praise the Lord.
it's a
I mean, I would
small.
hate for the Michael Todds and the Joel Osteens and the
No,
Creflo Dollars and all those guys to take up all the headlines. Let's
no,
talk about what's your man's name?
Casey Hart. Casey Hart.
Casey Hart.
He has got it's a small church
There you
in
go.
a very small community. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Casey grew up here. But he loves his people and they love him. And
So
he
as it
just
should be.
epitomizes to me of what a solid pastor does. So he's a good
As
dude.
it
You
should
guys would
be.
love him. Yep. And his
Yes,
wife,
sir.
Valerie's a sweetheart. Yep.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
That's great.
Yeah. And his mama cooks, man. Oh man.
Because she's from the
Man, does
South.
his mama cook. She even
From the
came over
South.
when we down to visit a couple years ago. She came over early in the morning and cooked like grits and biscuits and eggs, this whole meal in Casey's kitchen while we
Mhm.
were sleeping, so that when we woke up to it, we had this massive food feast right there. It was amazing.
I love it.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
love it.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Worth the trip.
Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to do music.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh,
Yep.
man. This is the cool introduction for our show today, where we talk about the first days in office for Donald J. Trump, 47, president. of the
47.
United States.
Yep. And his
This is going to
executive
be
order.
great. Executive
Yeah.
order after executive order after executive order after sheets and sheets and sheets. His signature. Here, you get a pen. You get a pen.
Yeah.
Joe Biden, you don't get a pen. But
He's doing some things. He's doing some things.
yeah, we got to talk about that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to having a little chat about it.
All right.
Be good. Be good stuff.
Yeah. So let me get some tags out of the way here real quick. Hope you like our new background, our new studio, our new setups here. Oh, yes. By virtue of the Copyright Act of 1976. Ha, you didn't think I was going to do it. They were just waiting for me to stumble upon myself. But no, I don't stumble. We remember this kind of stuff because it's legal. Beagle stuff. The Copyright Act, Section 107 of 1976, allows us to use this publication and this broadcast for criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and the like. For those of you who are out there, there's a special thing that you could do. Like and subscribe and like, whatever order you want to do that, so that you don't miss a single episode of the Way Forward show. You can simply do that by doing this. All right, Jason. The good Dr. Reverend. Hey, can we get a guest on next week?
Sure. I mean, who are you thinking? Think I can grab a hold of somebody?
There's another pastor here in town who he's just very wise. And
Yeah.
I told him we want to talk about Trump and whether that's a net positive and what the benefit of Donald Trump being in office is for the Christian. We'll spill into a little bit of that today, but he wants to come on and talk on our show. He's a good guy. I vetted him. I won't announce his name just yet.
Yeah.
But it could be really, it could be really two pastors and a wannabe. Two pastors and a wannabe. One of these days I'm gonna grow up and be like you guys.
Erskine.
Doctor.
Yeah.
Dr. Reverend.
When everybody in the room is like, man, I wish I could be like Erskine.
I wish I could be like you guys.
Lightning in a bottle.
I preach and people leave, or they just don't come. You guys preach and some leave, but then others come. Some stay. It's amazing. Yeah, and he's been pastor over here in Nashville for over 25 years, so
that's cool.
He knows his thing. All right,
Yeah.
so let's
stuff. All right.
Let's look at some media here. Lead us in prayer, if you would, good Dr. Pastor Reverend Headmaster.
Father, I'm thankful so much, Lord, for the opportunity to do this show, just to talk and to have a good conversation and to be wise, God willing, and to be helpful to the church. And we just pray that you would please grant us grace with our words and help us to be edifying to the people and to be firm in the truth, but also aware, Lord, of the people we're discussing, and always be thinking about the kingdom. I pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Man. All right, ladies and gentlemen, our top story today, we're going to be talking about executive orders signed on day one and then these first days in office for Donald Trump. Get ready for the way forward. All right, so we'll watch this little overview of the first day in office here, and we'll hear some of this. This will be good.
And commutations relating to events that occurred on January 6, 2021.
Okay, and how many people is this?
I think this order will apply to approximately 1,500 people.
So this is January 6th. These are the hostages. Approximately 50.
Hostages. Wow.
Full pardon.
Wow.
Full pardon or commutation?
Full pardon. We have about 6 commutations in there where we're doing further research. Nice to see you.
He just be signing some stuff. Now, I don't think this is this the official one where he was signing, just throwing stuff out in the audience?
Anything you want to explain about this? We hope they get them. We hope they come out tonight, frankly.
This is a proclamation guaranteeing the state's protection against invasion based on the current crisis at the southern border. It invokes various executive powers relating to the ongoing invasion at the southern border.
Invasion. That's some interesting language. I mean,
Sir, this is an executive order realigning
Yeah, we'll roll it back.
refugee admission program to better align with American principles and American interests. This next executive order
Because this is only a couple of minutes, by the way, folks.
Foreign terrorists and other national security and public safety threats.
Uh-huh.
Again, crisis at the border, but it goes beyond that and it implicates other executive powers as well.
it's a big pen.
And you could have got a souvenir pin if you would have gone to the arena event that you did.
Cartels are now going to be seen as foreign terror organizations. Would you think about ordering U.S. Special Forces into Mexico to take them out?
Could happen.
Could happen.
Stranger things have happened.
Can we expect ICE raids in major cities?
I don't want to say when, but it's going to happen. Has to happen, or we're not going to have a country left.
This is actually an executive order designating the cartels and other organizations to be foreign terror.
All right, you guys get the picture. You know what it is that's going on there.
Yeah.
A lot of Donald J. Trump signing some executive order. And look, we can go through and we can talk about 78 Biden era policies and the stroke of a pen immediately erased. We could talk about the various policies or executive orders that were related to immigration. Some of them were under the category, check this out, of common sense. We'll talk about that. Some constitutional challenges related to the 14th Amendment. Renaming certain monuments. I live the Gulf of America now.
Gulf America.
Gulf America.
Love it.
It should, I think there's going to be a challenge, but it's not going to necessarily be from Mexico. It'll probably be from Texas. Whether we can call it the Gulf of America or the Gulf of Texas.
I think Texas fights that. They own that Gulf.
Exactly.
Texas owns everything.
Exactly. The energy and economy. Colorblind administrative initiatives based on merit. Whew, well, let's get into that one. Yeah, so any direction you want to go, Jason, I'm here for it. I'm absolutely ready for this conversation. I'm looking forward to it. And we got the cool music playing in the background. So this is going to be a great conversation. Go.
Yeah. Well, you know, the Epic Times did a nice little piece on organizing kind of the main executive orders. And they started off with immigration and border. Why don't we do that? You want to follow that outline a little bit?
Sure, we'll go through outline.
Yeah,
I haven't seen every single one of those, but I know the ones that are making the headlines.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about, immigration that's been one of his platform things. And he said from day one that he's going to start addressing this. Matter of fact, one of the biggest criticisms against Harris was she did absolutely nothing.
Yes. Fail.
to protect the borders. So he's right off the bat, fulfilling campaign promises, going right after the border. So the question is, well, are these good? Are these what are these? Are these just symbolic or whatever? I personally, looking at them, I don't have a problem with just about all of them, except for there's one in there I'm really curious about. He has an executive order ending birthright citizenship.
All right, you went a little lo-fi on that.
So, and help me out. Maybe the comment section can help me out a little here. My understanding is if you're born in the country, you're a citizen. And so what he's trying to do is curb this idea that if you can get here and have your kids born here, and your kids are citizens, and then by default you can stay here. Is that what he's trying to curb? Is that what he's trying to do there?
Yeah, and I think in order to constitutionally do that, there'll need to be some kind of addendum or redress or rewording of the 14th Amendment, because that actually is a law.
See, now that one I'm a little sketchy on. I'm a firm believer that you're where you're born, that
that's where you're born.
And that goes back to Rome. That goes back to Greece. That goes. I'm an American. I was born here. I'm an American citizen.
Okay.
Now, if he wants to, I guess, modify something with immigration laws that doesn't necessarily entirely apply, I don't know. I don't know what the solution is to that one. I just don't want to eradicate birthright citizenship.
Right. So yes, sir.
Yeah.
So let's do this. I mean, let's take the vantage point, because we've done this a number of times before. Let's take the vantage point of let's be solutionists.
Yeah.
And if you and I guess by virtue of this, anybody who's watching this show today can do essentially the same thing. You're sitting down at the table and somebody presents you a problem. You want to come up with a solution to it. What is the extent of the problem? Well, we know that our southern border has scazoodles. That's a nice word that just says a lot of people who are coming across illegally, coming into our country, burdening and putting an albatross, both economically. There's some safety concerns, just a myriad of problems that are related to the southern border. What is the number of kids and people who are born in the United States from these illegal immigrants, and how is that affecting things that are going on in the United States of America? What's the correlation there? How big a problem are we looking at? That's the first thing I'd want to know.
Well, I mean, it's a strategy to get into the country by subverting our system, though. I think that's the issue, right? I mean, it's not just the impact of the problem. I mean, and I'm gonna use a wacky illustration here, but this is the one I can think of offhand. Cancer starts small, and it becomes a bigger problem. If I'm reading this correctly, Erskine, he's wanting to end birthright citizenship of children of non-citizens, so that they don't use that to become citizens, because that's how you subvert the system, so to speak.
Yeah, the de-incentivization of coming into our country and saying, if I can just get across the border and give birth to a baby,
child, then we're not going to separate the families, and because that's a topic, right? Do you remember back in the
Obama administration,
when the first election, when he was running against Joe Biden, who built the cages? Joe, remember that whole rhetoric? About getting cages, separating families and stuff, and that was a big ordeal in the Senate with the new immigration guy. I can't remember his name offhand, and AOC was trying to trap him in a corner about separating families. So they recognizing that this is a strategy that's used by illegal immigrants to come in. If I can just get my children born here, then by de facto I can be here. I don't know how big the problem is exactly, but what I'm thinking is they're trying to find ways to quit or not allow people to subvert the process, right?
Right. And I understand that, and I appreciate that. Don't hear me say that I'm against trying to rectify a problem that's obvious there, or an abuse that's there. But what I am trying to figure out is there's two things that don't necessarily fit in my mind. One of those is not everybody that comes to our country is trying to surreptitiously come to subvert the law.
Sure.
Those seeking asylum because of situations that are going on in their country of origin, problems that they're facing. I've always thought that there was a bureaucratic problem with how do we document the people who are coming in. If their desires to actually come here legally and go through the process or be protected under the laws of asylum, then there's a process that they should go through. It seems that on another stroke of legislation, he automatically ended the electronic porthole that would be the application process for these immigrants coming into the country.
Mhm.
So now he de-incentivizes them to come, but then they don't even have a legal means, as it would seem, to be able to come into the country because he's taken away the files and the registration process.
They still have, as flawed as it is, they still have the legal process that's in place. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it needs reformation in a big way. So, I mean, they still have a process. It's just, I wonder if this is a knee-jerk reaction. Have you been paying attention at all to the immigration stuff and the consequences of over in Europe and like what England's going through right now and Poland and Germany and these folks? They are putting a massive overhaul on immigration because the policies have allowed immigrants to come in and kind of subvert this culture, not always for the best. And so, like Poland, I think is the leading country right now on trying to protect its culture and at the same time be compassionate and allow a certain amount of immigrants in. Do you think that this is kind of a knee-jerk reaction to what we're seeing over there on top of the crisis we're seeing at the border?
Oh,
I
wow.
feel like when I look at Europe, they're really caught between a rock and a hard place. I look at the UK in particular, and I'm watching. There is a sense of I don't want to call it nationalism, but there is a sense of UK pride that's developing big over there because of the consequences of bad policies on immigration, and some of the things have gotten out of hand. So, I mean, do you think that Trump and Vance, these guys, are looking at Europe, and then they're also looking at their own crisis, and they're saying, "Hey, we've got to hard and heavy."
Oh, they've got to be.
Uh-huh.
Europe is a mess. That whole situation that's going on in England, completely untenable. To have so many different people groups who are enfranchised, they've got to be looking at that and saying, we're either at that level or soon going to be at that level where it's virtually impossible for us to have a national identity when every group that is here is so enfranchised, and illegal groups that are coming in begin to be so enfranchised and empowered. And so, yeah, definitely, I recognize the problem. I do.
Yeah.
Folks, I'm listening. I'm paying attention.
Yeah.
I'm from Texas. I know that there's a problem. I know that there's abuses that are there. There's just something that I'm going to tease you because there's something that I'm going to say a little bit later on in this broadcast that is the reason why I go, okay, there's special notes that are coming to me. Okay. Yes. That's how people talk to me outside the show.
Yeah.
You can type it at the bottom of the screen, or you can hand me a note in person. So I want to be thoughtful. I want to be a person who's actually figuring out what a solution to a problem is by figuring out what the extent of the problem is.
Uh-huh.
And so that's the only caveats that I give here. In fact, he did some things, or at least proposes to do some things that are a little bit crazy on the spectrum.
Uh-huh.
The type of things that I've talked about.
Uh-huh.
And I've talked about before, if I was president, I would annex a part of Mexico and I would send our military in there to eradicate any problems that we might come in contact with, which would, i.e., be the cartels. And so I love the fact that
you would agree that labeling them a terrorist organization was the right call?
Absolutely.
I agree 100%. I think that was the right call.
Absolutely.
And I had to giggle when they said, "Are you opposed to sending special forces in to eradicate them?" Stranger things have happened. Wow. That's funny. That's funny.
I guess the
No.
only better reply would have been, "They're already there."
Yeah. Hey,
I've been in office for 13 hours. They're already there.
dude, we've got people all over the place now. Hey, this Braden.
Don't be
gentleman
surprised.
here, he put his comment up on the screen. I was curious about his question. Braden.
Braden, yeah.
Yeah. So he
So we got
says,
folks who are watching out from California now.
all right. I think a good question to ask is what changed in America where immigration hasn't changed that much, but there's such a lack of interest in having national identity. I want to ask a question. Is it wrong for us to have a national identity? Because that was preached to us, I think, for the last 40, I mean, definitely during Biden, and then I even think through Obama, that if you have national identity, you're a fascist or you're a right wingist or something. You're a conspiracy theorist. But when we grew up in the 80s, dude, we're proud. I mean, we had Bruce
Proud to be
Springsteen,
American.
We had
Well, at
Ronald
least we
Reagan.
know we're
I mean,
free.
we were American, right?
Yeah,
And now to say that is like, is that wrong? And then okay, so is having a national. Then my next question with Braden is, because I'm just kind of feeding off what he said, is having a national identity at odds with immigration? I don't think it is, but you know, does it seem like the progressives?
It is.
The
Jason.
progressives have put this narrative out there that if you have national identity, you can't be for immigration.
Yes.
When our country was built on the idea that we can have national identity and immigration, you know what I'm saying?
Look, and I don't want to make this one of those shows where we look at people who don't have the same viewpoint as us and we say, you guys are the ones who messed everything up. I think the Republicans and the Democrats and Christians who don't go out and share their faith, like we're all messing the thing up. We're all messing the thing up. All right. But here's how Black Lives Matter, some of the woke agenda, liberals have just messed this thing up. There's some really terrible things that have happened in America. Check. But as we move from some of those things to our identity, we don't need to go back and castigate everybody that's out there, tear down everything in our society, label people a certain way, and then propagate a system of hate based on things that have happened in the past. We need to move forward, creating a sense of national identity. And that was the thing that just absolutely just cratered Black Lives Matter and this whole woke agenda, is the inability to vie for a type of national identity in which people can rally around the center point of what it means to be an American and tease out what it means to be an American in the context that we find ourselves in, with them shared goals, shared values,
Right.
shared geography.
Yeah.
But instead it became this combative thing where if you don't have my story, then you can't be a part of it.
Well,
If I don't have your
Here's the
story,
thing about us, Erskine, is that we're called to love our neighbor, all of our neighbors, right?
yes,
Love the Lord your God with all of your mind, heart, soul, and strength. Love your neighbors yourself. So I can have a national identity and love my neighbors, and I can love the immigrants coming in. But for the last 4 years, and I go back to President Obama, that we were told that you cannot have that national identity, and B, even they'd even mess with your identity as a believer in a sense to say that how can you say you love God and love neighbor and have a national identity in so many ways?
yeah,
And
and
I agree with you. I agree with you that there's enough shade on both sides to go around. But I will tell you, one of the strongest messages I received as a voter from the progressive agenda was I didn't have a right to be proud of my country or to be an American.
yeah,
And so part of my relief is, and then watching even the inauguration and all this, is that I love seeing the American flags up there, and I love seeing that we can be that, and still not lose who we are.
yes.
So
and
you know,
that's the second part of what it was that I was getting at, is that you don't have to lose some of the ethnic ideas and ethnic cultural identities that we have to be a part of the larger story. And so I see it as these cascading narratives in our lives. We're American, but so far as it is colored with our particular context and where we may have come from, we may be a Black American that likes soul food, and so you bring that aspect in there, or a Black American that has, you know, certain tendencies and cultural things that you bring to flavor what it means to be an American. Not to say that the
Yeah, I like
identity that
that.
we have culturally,
Yeah.
not to say that the identity that we have culturally needs to trump. And I need to, if being American is, you know, white people and all these different things, I don't want to be an American. I just absolutely hate that nomenclature. Be Black, be Mexican. I don't want to go into a Chinese restaurant. I don't want to go into a Mexican restaurant and just see people who are not that ethnicity working there. The food may not be good. It may not be authentic. And I know that you're not supposed to talk that way, but I can guarantee you, if you go to a restaurant that is a Chinese restaurant, you see Asian people who are working there, you're going to feel a little bit better about your meal being authentic.
Even though it's the Hispanics in the cook room.
Stop it. You know, I was traveling one time with the band, and we were in Missouri, and I stopped with the band. You know, we usually try to eat Mexican food. It's a little cheaper, and you know, you get a large portion and everything. So we stopped at a Mexican restaurant in Missouri. Yeah, and it's good.
Yeah.
And there were all white people that were working there. And I was like,
that ain't right. You're
I
like,
don't know how
man,
this-
DEI.
And so, and so at least I was like, okay, I'm good. Hostess, okay, I'm good. You know, the server. I'm looking in the kitchen. I'm like, surely there got to be some Mexicans in the kitchen, because you cannot call this a Mexican restaurant. There's no Mexicans involved whatsoever
at all. It's a white Mexican restaurant. And listen, you know it's bland because white people got no flavor, right? We have to we have to put pepper on rice.
Oh, that's
you know, I'm from the Midwest. In the Midwest, it's meat and potatoes, with a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. Otherwise, we're not doing anything else. That's it,
bro. My wife was from Colorado, and
yeah.
her family said something about we're gonna barbecue some stuff. I'm like, oh, that's
Man,
great.
this is it.
That's great. Oh yeah, we about to have some barbecue. They had some hot dogs out there. I was like, where's the barbecue?
We disappointed our black guy. Come on. That's not cool.
Oh, and then my wife came to my family. We had ribs, we had brisket. That stuff had been smoked for a couple of days. I was like, this is barbecue. I don't know what we had. They had a little slice of ham.
Hey,
talking about
listen,
barbecue.
I absolutely, if I don't know, if for the simple fact that the food has changed, I love that America's diverse. I love it. I love the melting pot thing that I love that we can have Asian, Hispanic, black, white, and everything in between, if not only for the food. Not just for the, it's amazing. I mean, it's amazing. Don't get me wrong. Some of my closest friends, some of my best friends have been black, Asian, or Hispanic, and one of the things I've always enjoyed is just learning how to eat together. We had some close friends in seminary who are Indian, and they taught us how to cook.
Oh my
real
goodness,
Indian curry, like
Indian food.
Yes,
I love it.
We can bring peace on earth through food, bro. We can. We can do it.
I'm like, hey.
We should make that an executive order. We all got to sit down and have a meal together. That's it.
I love it.
Yeah.
The nation that eats together.
Right. Eat together. That's good.
So here's what I want to see. Obviously, it's the Way Forward show, but I want to see even being American as a subcategory. Because if you're a follower of Christ, then this world is not our home. We're citizens of heaven. And so, but here's the deal, Jason. Here's why I say this for this show. We can be a Christian in America with an ethnic identity, and all of that can flow in line. They don't have to be contradictory lines. And that's the part that has been so troublesome to me over the last few years, is that all of those things necessarily, by virtue of the way that people are talking, have to bump into one another and be at odds with one another. You can't be a Christian if you're a particular ethnicity. You can't be this. You can't be. And I'm like, no. That belies the very hope of the gospel, that every man, woman, boy, and girl, tribe, and tongue can come
So
to Jesus Christ.
here's something interesting to me, Erskine. I'm bubbling to say this because you just hit a nerve of mine. Well, maybe a fear. I don't know. That part of being proud to be an American. My dad served in the military. Mom served in the military. Aunt served in the military. My cousin, grandfather. We have a long history of serving our country, whether it's in the military or even public service. I mean, I served in AmeriCorps for 2 years. We have got we are American, right? And so one of the things that made me a little nervous is when I'm listening to the real staunch Christian nationalist talk.
Mm.
And I, on the one hand, can appreciate how they feel and understand some of that current. But what makes me nervous is I think it can become something that you just talked about, where it can't be that ethnic, even though I think they would say it can be, but you just have to uphold these certain things, right? I'm like, I don't know. I didn't get that flavor when I'm listening to Christian nationalists talk. I don't get Great Commission when I hear Christian nationalists talk. I don't hear gospel unity. I don't hear a lot of, actually what I hear is a lot of distraction by politics, and I do the Great Commission.
Mm.
And I'm not slamming all Christian nationalists here. I'm just saying,
Well,
when I'm hearing
if you're
the
a Christian nationalist and you want to speak in the comment section,
Right.
there it is.
I know,
Whoop, there it
what's
is.
coming. They're going to come out guns blazing saying, we believe the Bible, we believe the Great Commission, we love Jesus, but we love America too. I'm with you. Okay, I'm with you. But the way the rhetoric came out to me and stuff I've read seems like we are more constitutional American than we are Christian. That's what I was picking up. And I'm no expert on Christian nationalism, but my knee-jerk reaction to it at first was, ooh, how does this fit in line with the Great Commission? How does this welcome my neighbors into my home, especially my neighbors who are not, who I'm trying to reach for the kingdom? They might even be progressive liberal. They might even be Muslim, for all I know. How does Christian nationalism really help the gospel? And I don't know. I'm coming up short on that. So
Well, the
I would
audience
love to have a discussion with Christian nationalists who would uphold that and help me understand that a little better. Because I don't quite.
And I think
feel that vibe.
My buddy Chad asked a good question. Could you define what a Christian nationalist is?
Ooh, yeah.
If one is not familiar with that term, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he seeded that question just to have the show explode on us.
Yes. Thank you, Michael.
But maybe there are those out there who don't know, because there are several different definitions, and this is what's about to happen to the show.
That's hilarious. Yes. Who's going to shut us down first? The nationalists or YouTube? Right. Yeah.
So let's quickly define Christian nationalism, because we'll talk about that a lot throughout the course of this show, and maybe having some shorthand ways of understanding what we mean when we talk about Christian nationalism, because under some definitions of Christian nationalism, we're Christian nationalists.
Yes. Yep.
So what do we mean when we say Christian nationalism? And I'm gonna let you almost speak for me, and then if you mess up, then I'll speak for me.
I'm not sure I'm a Christian nationalist. I can tell you what I think Christian nationalism is.
What will we be responding to when we say Christian nationalism that is not as concerned about the gospel, that emphasizes and prioritizes national trends and politics?
Okay. Yeah.
About gospel fluency and those types of things. So I'll let you cook for a second here. In fact, I'll change the music so you can cook.
So Christian nationalism, I think, is, on the one hand, the belief that our country was founded on Christian ideology, which I don't disagree with. I think even though they were deists and there were other people there who might even been atheistic, they respected Christian religion enough to see that its virtues were good for the country. So I do believe that we have a strong Christian influence in our founding. Where I think Christian nationalism, where it maybe advocates, is this kind of fusion, that this is what makes me nervous, this fusion of national identity and cultural conservatism with Christianity. You know what I'm saying? Like it's meshing the two together, because not all conservatives are Christian, and not even conservatism in of itself is Christian, but they're definitely very friendly, aren't they? Because they kind of hold the same morals. So when I see Christian nationalism, to me, it seems like it's a fusion of this kind of national identity conservatism meshed with gospel Bible virtue, right? Or even a love for God and country, so to speak. That, in my impression, as I'm watching things unfold, that national identity conservatism seems to take the lead over the gospel. Does that make sense at all?
Yeah,
The main identity. The main
I'm
identity
tracking with you, but
the
you have
main
to ask the
identity-
audience.
Yeah. So the main identity becomes essentially I'm a national Christian, so to speak. Even though you're saying you're a Christian nationalist, I'm more about my country and the Constitution and the liberties and all that come with it, and Jesus fits well into that. Versus Jesus is king, and we surrender our lives to him, and he it's his kingdom that we're joyfully advancing, and God willing, hopefully bring a revival to America, right?
Yeah.
To not just be conservative, but to be really truly Christian. That makes sense.
Yeah. And yeah, absolutely. It makes perfect sense to me, but you have to ask the audience. Does that make sense to you guys? I would just simply say it is the use of biblical and Christian values to promote a coalition between the state and the church. I would simply define it as that. And everything that you said.
Yeah, that's a good word. Coalitions. Yeah, flesh that out a little bit. That coalition word.
Yeah. So
I like the word. I like but I want to hear more what you have to say about that.
The coalition idea. Today we're talking about Christian nationalism.
Yeah,
but
started,
the coalition.
we have to do several shows on Trump's executive order. We didn't even get the DEI or the transgender stuff, which I'm kind of excited to talk about. But
Yeah,
I
we'll
want to hear
get
more
to
what you talk about the coalition thing.
Yeah, but the coalition idea is just that we can have the Christian values serves as the historical and cultural basis for us to be able to say we need to respond in society in this way. We need to pass laws that are based on this kind of principle. But as we're seeing, well, that's what I mean by the coalition there. Like, you can be conservative, but you can be a log cabin Republican. Basically means you're gay and you believe in aspects of the gay agenda. But because you believe in other conservative principles like economics or the border or other things, you can lock hands and lock arms and say, well, we agree on these things. And so we're not going to talk about those issues because that gets into morality. And we don't necessarily want to, have to parse that out. We're going to be conservative in general, conservative in scope, because we know that we're not progressive, but we're going to borrow enough Christian language, enough Christian principle to put this thing together.
Yeah.
And so, Jason, I think what you and I have always been concerned about is you can borrow the language, you can borrow some of the principles and the ideas of Christianity, but without being a Christian, you're devoid of the power of those things. You're devoid of the moral impetus of those things. And so that's why you see somebody who, Trump, historically speaking, is a sleazeball. And some of the people that he's tapped for public office, they're absolutely wretched, morally speaking. But that doesn't matter to the larger coalition of conservatives that are out there, because the ends justifies the means. If we have to use Christian language or Christian values or Christian principles to achieve our conservative ends, then isn't it pretty much all the same thing in the end? And what you and I push back against is saying, hang on a second. And even Al Mohler has pushed back against this, and I'm glad to hear him be so vocal. He's the president of Southern Seminary. I'm glad to hear him be so vocal as to say, this can't last long. This is not going to end well. If Christians start to get involved in politics to the degree where it's okay, as long as we're not Democrats, as long as we're not progressive, as long as we don't have the DEI agenda and all those different things, as long as we can agree on the border, it doesn't matter what your moral compass is or what your moral standing is. And that's why you have the Amber Roses and even the Andrew Tates and folks like that who are now being embraced by conservatives because they've pushed back against. And for those of you who don't know Amber Rose, if you don't know who Amber Rose is, then you don't need to know who Amber Rose is. If you don't know who Andrew Tate is, then you don't need to know who Andrew Tate is. but people who would be contradictory at its very scope to Christian values and Christian principles who are being embraced by conservatives because they're not the other group. So it creates strange bedfellows, Jason. And you and I have been maybe on the side of getting whacked on both sides from those who are both Christian, those who are conservative.
We have taken we get punched on the left and we get punched on the right. Well,
yeah, but I mean, I'm not crying about it. I mean, it is what it is. People
keep going. So Braden had said, is the concern creating a nation where people are unregenerate but have correct morals? That is one of the concerns, right? Because moralism, at one level, the Christian faith can be good for society because there is a correct way to live, so to speak, right? But at the end of the day, if you have not have a regenerated heart, you cannot truly live out what God has called us to and to flourish. What happens is the ebb and flow of our culture goes up and down these massive swings. I mean, just even look where President Trump has moved on his position on abortion.
Oh, that's a good example.
A quick move, right? And now all of a sudden conservatives can be, well, we're pro-life. And he did just let go of some pro-lifers who were arrested, right? So I'm pro-life, but I'm not pro-life. You know what I'm saying? There's where things get sketchy. We'll do the same thing with marriage. Hey, listen, who you sleep with is your business. It's not my business. And, we don't need to be a part of that. But at some point, the church is going to come into conflict with conservatism when we say it does matter. It does matter because it matters to God, which is why I've always kind of purported that there's going to be a great divorce, at some point, the liberals and the conservatives are going to get tired of the church because we're pushing back against both. If the church will have the gumption to do it.
Hold on a second, Jason. We ought to be pushing back.
Mm-hmm.
The church should have a prophetic voice.
Mm-hmm.
We should be uncomfortable with the Democrats and we should be uncomfortable with the Republicans, because to the Republicans, we have a lot of moral issues that we need to bring to the forefront for clarity's sake in terms of what the implications of the gospel and the church actually are, that the Republicans seem to be blind in reference to. You talked about the sliding moral scale that Donald Trump has had with regards to pro-life issues, the sliding moral scale as it relates to character, marriage, certainly honesty, integrity, those types of moral implications that a Christian would bring to the conversation, that if we were to really be involved in the thick of the thing, there would need to be some public rebukes of things that Donald Trump has done and or said. Mm-hmm. And when I don't hear those from conservatives, and especially those that he's lined himself with who are ministers, I go, I wonder if the blindness that comes from being close to human power has silenced your mouth. Mm-hmm. Now, Jason, you and I think would be honest with our audience and just say, we're not in that situation. Nope. And so maybe we would be just as cowardly.
Maybe we would be. Exactly.
Maybe we could build a coward's castle over here and just fortify ourselves and say, if we were in that situation and Donald Trump came to us and said, hey, look, I know I said this, but it's okay. God, he'll put out a good word for me. And then, just this doubling over and this bending backwards to try to make it appear as though Donald Trump is a Christian. Like a lot of those things, like the world looks at as very disingenuous and looks at Christianity and says, well, what actually is your message? Yeah. What actually is your rationale? Is it just to get worldly power? Because the reason why I wanted to do this, and we can take 2 or 3 weeks to do this if you want to, but the reason why I wanted to talk about this intensely is because whatever executive orders get passed now, the pendulum is going to swing.
Yeah.
Whatever we rename now, it's going to get renamed back.
That's right. Another executive order is going to come eventually. I like what Michael Chad Wilson had to say. I think Trump wanted to win an election, so he allowed himself to bend. I think there's truth to that statement. But that goes to show, right? Moral fortitude or character. That's where we need our men to stand up and not bend, And we have to raise our sons and to be better, and our daughters to be better. We have to, and this is where when we raise them to be better, they're going to push back and essentially, this is where the divorce is going to happen. Once we push back and say, no, that's not acceptable, I don't need you. And it's coming and it's going to be sad and we're going to, feel it, but it's going to be okay because Jesus is still king and we're going to work through it.
Can you
but-
bring up one more issue from these executive orders this week, and then maybe we'll jump into some more of that next week and we'll have a guest?
Well, I'll tell you what I want to do is I want to talk about at some point is gender DEI stuff, which from a political standpoint and like a country standpoint, I'm 100% behind. I'm actually kind of a fan of that Hegseth that just got nominated as the overseer, the director of defense, Department of Defense. That young, have you paid attention to his Senate hearing? I think
Man, I
his
saw
name.
some stuff this morning. I didn't have a chance to get
J.D.
into it.
Vance is the one who
Butch was
had to
taking class.
finally break the tying vote for him to get put in. But I growing up in the military, I was never in the military. I just grew up as a family member in it, and it was kind of all around my family. I like on the surface what he says about what we need to do with our military, getting some of this DEI, getting all the DEI stuff out, getting all the weird policies that are there that are distracting our soldiers and hurting our soldiers. I'm even okay with women not going into combat. I'm a big fan of that. I know that's controversial in our culture, but because I'm a big believer that God created man to protect his house. I like what he says, and I hope that he's able to have success there, and I hope he knows where that line is, because there is a line that you can go too far, and I'm waiting to see if he talks about that.
Do you know much about his character?
I know there's been a lot of accusations about him, but I have not researched them enough to know if they're founded or not.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at on that. I policy wise and principle wise, I want to be excited about some of the things that are being said. Man, Jason, it would be so much different if you and I both weren't, and some of the folks who are listening and watching the show weren't character people. Like if it was just principle, if it was just policy, okay, check. But that character matters. It matters. It authenticates a message. It is, and I think Chad was kind of hinting at this, it is, we lack the ability to lie and sleep well at night. We wouldn't say things that we know are not true so that we could get votes. But when you're dealing with people who would say things that they know are not true, or that they don't intend to do, or that they're not all that concerned about so that they can get votes, at some point when your character is tested, the default is to go back to what you were, not aspire to be what you should be. You know what I'm saying? And so, in the president, in these next 4 years, there's going to come a test. And I just don't know, Jason, if the character issue is going to manifest itself the way that people would hope and like to think that it would. But let's pray for our president, for sure.
Pray hard.
Pray. Be vigilant.
With
you
Hegseth,
yourself, myself, be in God's word.
I have to do more on him. I've just been paying attention to his nomination, you're right, Lean, and listening to his testimony, and he said those were unfounded, but I haven't done anything to look into it.
Yeah.
But I like what he's saying with the Department of Defense. And I like my line is he can go into the whole Andrew Tate syndrome real fast. And I don't think Andrew Tate is healthy for men. So I think that kind of masculinity is not wise or good for America. I get where Andrew Tate comes from. I know how he's made even. But I just don't think that he is that's why I'm curious where that line is. The question that should we push to overturn the was it the Obergefell? How do you pronounce that?
Obergefell.
That's the same-sex thing, right? The same-sex licensing. I don't recognize same-sex marriage. I don't call it marriage. I've never recognized it as marriage. Marriage is between a man and a woman. So I don't think to be honest with you, I really don't think the government has the right to define marriage. I think it has the right to protect marriage. God defines marriage, and so, but it shouldn't be. I don't think the state should be licensing same-sex couples. So that's my opinion. Because
All
I
right.
think it goes against what God's design is, and anything goes against God's design, eventually we're not going to flourish. So,
Amen. Let's get to our takeaways. We're at an hour.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
told you we could do a 3-hour show.
we could. We got all these executive orders to talk about.
We could talk about executive orders all day long. We still haven't
Yeah.
talked. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we haven't talked about today that we need to
Yeah.
get in today. But listen, we would much rather have, and I think I can speak on behalf of Jason as well. We would much rather have a live audience that's engaged and wanting to hear and be conversant in these conversations. Look, if we'd pre-recorded the show, you could ask all the questions you want to in the comment section, but we're not able to answer those things. And so
Yeah.
having the live interaction, we value that. Keep making the comments there, because the more you comment, the more the algorithm picks up the fact that there's a conversation that people need to hear that's going on here. They don't care what the conversation is. It's just more people to view so they can sell their wares. But this is good. This is good. And we appreciate you guys making comments out there, and very classy. Our audience is always very classy. We
Yeah.
could do a 3-hour show, bro.
We could. And I
Just
love
because
the
you can
church.
doesn't mean you should.
I mean, we're kind of out of time, but I mean, are we married through the church by God, or married by the God? That's a great question. I'd love to answer biblically, because that's an elaborative question. Why are we protecting marriage? Why do we need to protect marriage? And why does the Bible define marriage the way it does? That's a show in itself, because we have to explain that it's not just a social contract. You know, it's a covenant between God. It's a testimony of the gospel. It's a lot of things, and so the government doesn't need to be really involved in that aspect of it, but the church is given it pretty quickly, because the church has not been a very strong testimony lately to that. So
Yeah.
and one of the things we'd have to talk about then is adultery, infidelity, and all of divorce, and all the other ones that are going along with this that we have neglected to really deal with. So that's why that's a show in itself. That's something we need to talk about later, but I'd love to talk about it. I'd love to get that on.
Yeah, that gets in a lot of different directions. Let's get some
Yeah.
way forward takeaways.
Government officials insist that
Jason, you go first.
Yeah. So, Trump getting elected to office is under God's providence, just as Joe Biden was, just as Trump was under 2016. And we uphold that. Any president that makes the office is because by the providence of God, they're there and they're going to serve a purpose. And so pray for your president, pray hard. I do not want Donald Trump to fail. I didn't want Joe Biden to fail. As a matter of fact, I got to the point in Biden's presidency that I actually felt bad for the man, because I don't want to see any man stumble the way he stumbled publicly. It's not good for him. It's not good for his family. It's not good for our country. So I do not want Donald Trump to fail. I also need the church to understand that there's no way you could put as many eggs in Donald Trump's basket as you're doing, because Erskine is absolutely right. There's going to come a test of that character, and we're going to have to see the real spiritual mettle of President Trump in his nominations. Now, quite frankly, I'm excited about his nominations. A lot of them I think are going to do a great job. Policy-wise, I'm just scared about the character side of things. And I've been that way for probably the last 10 years when it comes to politics. I've never really found somebody I can truly sink my teeth into as a political leader who was really on morally high ground. There's a few out there, and they're good, but they're just not recognized by the church or by the culture right now as being significant. So we have what we have. So pray for your president. Continue to ask the Lord to give him wisdom, to act righteously, to act wisely, to be careful. And then, with immigration, this is a real issue that we definitely need to fix. And signing an executive order isn't going to solve all the problems, but he has, I think, made some good strides forward. But we have to keep in mind the humanity and compassion side of immigration. We can never lose sight of that. I was so fortunate to be born here and so fortunate to grow up in this country. There's not a country in this world that I would rather want to be in, to raise my family in, than the one I'm in right now. And so I am blessed by that. That was by the providence of God. Others who are trying to get here, I think most of them are trying to find a better way to live, and I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. I just want to have policies in place that are able for them to support that ambition, at the same time keep things safe and well here, while I love my neighbor and fulfill the Great Commission as God brings the nations to my back door. So as a believer, that's the scope and sequence I'm thinking is the thing. So, as they come, welcome them, love them, enjoy their food. Man, praise Jesus.
Let's go.
Praise Jesus for the melting pot of America, because the food is great. The food is great. That's all I got, man.
All right. Let me swing over do a little dipsy doodle there on the screen. Yeah, Jason, I want to pick up on some of your themes. I want to echo what it is that you said in reference to the church and God's people. As I was thinking through the issues today, I was reminded of the fact that pendulum does swing. And I'm reading a book by Rick Rigsby, and the chapter that I've been reading this last week was on kindness.
Yeah, I heard about that book.
Yeah, and how we should always be characterized by kindness. There's a lot in me that says, yeah, man, we're fixing the border, because I'm from Texas, and like there's definitely a problem. Yeah, man, we're fixing some of this, diversity, equity, and inclusion issues. We're fixing that. Yeah, man, pump the fist. Boys and girls. We're going back to that again. All right, that's God's design. Like, yeah, I'm in my heart, and this may not be you, but this in my heart. I'm hearing a lot of these executive orders. I'm like, man, yes, like we're winning. We're winning. This is good. This is good. Even, the cartels, the terrorists, and, may use the military. And I'm excited about those things a little too much. And I need to be reminded. And I think there's probably other people who are watching this today who need to be reminded of the fact that as God's people, even though we may not in any way, shape, form, or fashion relate to the people who are in cartels, they are people who are created in the image of God. And so we have a message that can be delivered to them, even in kindness. To the Andrew Tates of the world, in whom I believe we didn't talk about pornography, but this reprehensible, all the social issues that are out there. Let's just remember, folks, that these are people that are represented, not just a tally mark that says this number of tally marks came across the border and we need to do something about it. But these are people. So as we enact policies that must uphold the law, we also do so recognizing that there's a certain kindness that's laden. And I appreciate what you said, Jason, with regards to not wanting Biden to fail and praying for him. So too, do we extend that same type of olive branch to Donald Trump to say, there are some policies and there's some character issues that we would maybe directly point at, but we want to also pray for Donald Trump. We want to pray for our leaders in our country. You don't have to argue about that one. The Bible tells us to do that. And so we should be doing that. And then remembering that even those who don't have the same political bent as ours, they probably are wrong. But even in that, those are people who are made in the image of God, who can be addressed and reached with the hope of the gospel. And the gospel changes everything. And so let's not assume that just because people don't think the way that we do now, and people don't see the issues the way that we do now, that they're always going to be in that position, because at one point we didn't see the issues the way that we see them now until the grace of God came into our lives. And so that would be my general takeaway for all of this discussion. That's my general takeaway for the whole season. So you don't even have to watch another episode.
Well, and good people come into your life. Our conversations are just so nice and reforming for me. So allow yourself to have conversations about the gospel with people. It's amazing what happens when your perspective changes a little bit, and God uses that to conform you more into the image of his son. So,
yeah. And I will say, don't believe the hype, because I had some great conversations with some folks this week at the YMCA who are not believers, but they are just generally kind people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they were coming up to me, and they didn't know that I was a believer, but they were coming up to me and they were trying to figure out how they could help me.
Yeah.
do more in my business. And I'm like, man, they're just
Yeah.
outpouring. I was like, I
Yeah.
feel like I need to Venmo you because you've spent so
Yeah.
much time trying to
Yeah.
help me do what it is. You don't even know me. And
Yeah.
so there are those
Yeah.
people who are out there, and let's not let the world out Christian in terms of kindness.
Oh,
Us.
there's another show right there.
Yeah. Yeah. So
We'll
thanks
keep it
to
on the up.
thanks to all the folks in the comment section. This is the Way Forward show. Listen, I know that they're populating. I'll just run through these really quickly here. What do we miss? All right. Yep. Oh,
Bible sales are up. I bet he's making a killing too. He's got his own Bible, doesn't he? Trump.
yeah.
Or weren't you supposed to get me one of those?
Well, I don't know that we were asked the audience if they could get us one of those Trump
know.
Bibles.
Get you a pair of sneakers and I get a Bible.
Yes, exactly. And so, yep, this is the way forward. This is what we do every week. And it's good because of that. Jason, thanks for joining.
Yep.
And I'm excited about this season, where it is that we're going to be going next week. We want to have the Reverend Dr. Kevin Schrum. I'll stand between giants. He was at one point the president of the Tennessee Baptist Convention back when they were called that. 25 plus years at Inglewood Baptist Church. And he's, I think, positioned to come on the show next week, unless, as a pastor, something comes up in his schedule or he has to, do an emergency hospital visit or something like that. He's poised to come on the show next week and join us during our time slot. And we're going to talk about some of these, pretty much the same episode. We'll talk about executive orders. We'll talk about Christian nationalism. We'll talk about the exchange of ideas between some of those things. And so if you enjoyed this discussion, there's going to be 3 of us next week, and then you guys included. And so you won't want to miss next week's episode. Yeah, it'll be a fantastic discussion. There may even be a little clash in that discussion. And so you'll definitely want to hear some of that.
Yeah.
God bless you. Way Forward Show.